He was destined to be a teacher, but became a professional footballer. Glasgow-born and always one to speak his mind, he became a massive name in the 80s and 90s. In his new book, The Accidental Footballer, we get a fascinating insight into his life on and off the pitch. I'm Leonie Carpenter, and today I'm joined by the brilliant Pat Nevin. Pat, it is great to see you. Thank you for coming today. Of course, we are going to be talking about the beautiful, The Accidental Footballer. How proud are you of this book?
What a great opening question. How annoying. Because I don't think I've actually used the word proud about anything I've done in my kind of life, because you just do what you do. Actually, I'm a wee bit proud of it. I'm certainly pleased with it. The story behind it was I wrote it myself. I didn't tell anyone I was writing it. Took it to the publishers and said, do you like that? And so they read it and went, yeah, that's all right. So it's not one of those ghosted ones. It's not one of those set up ones. I just wanted to write in my own way about certain weird things that had happened during my life. And, you know, people get to know little bits about you. But it's nice to kind of put it down the way of, right, you kind of know a little bit, but here's the weird stuff. You know, especially being involved in football. I'm being very much an outsider, but an outsider who actually adored the game and loved the game and kind of loved a lot of the people within it. But I just didn't understand them. And even though they nicknamed me down at Chelsea when I first came, I was nicknamed Weirdo. And I thought, I'm the normal one. You're all weird. I think I've been born out with that over the years. I was quite a normal guy. So it's brilliant to do it. When I started writing, I absolutely couldn't stop.
You were obviously a very talented footballer, and you were from a very young age. How many kick-ups could you do by the age of 8?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I could have done as many as I liked. I mean, you can do 10,000. If you can, my concept is if you can do 100, you can do 200, you can do 500, you can do 1,000.
Well, let's get a ball out and we can do it.
I've not got the right shoes. You can try. Yeah. But then if I could do what I stopped doing after doing 10,000 when I was young, I just thought, right, forget that. I can do 20,000 now if I want. Let's do tricks now. So I started learning different tricks. But I'd learned all that kind of stuff very, very young because my dad had taught me. Which was another reason for writing is my dad, who's no longer with us, but I wanted to kind of celebrate the part he had in my life as well. And certainly in those young days, he taught me a lot of those skills.
Oh, that's brilliant. My dad tried to help me. I think I could do about 5 kick-ups by the age of 8. I did try, though. The effort was there. So can we talk about when you were 10? You were in a penalty kicking competition, which was a very surreal experience for a 10-year-old. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Well, first of all, any Chelsea fans of a certain age will say, Nevin, penalties? What?
We are going to come on to that later on. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we will, don't worry. But I was at the age of 10, officially the best penalty taker in Scotland. And the reason being is there was a penalty kick competition, and the first one, there was 2 parts. The first one was at Celtic Park, and I was in those days a Celtic supporter, and it was against actually one of the Celtic's goalkeepers, and it was, you know, everybody got to this, you know, thousands of kids went in for it, and eventually it got to the final, and I don't think I'd missed a penalty all the way through, and at the final, there was like 5 of us, and then it was 2 of us at half time in this game, this Celtic game. There was 40-odd thousand, 50-odd thousand people there, and I scored every single penalty. And so I won that, which made me the champion of Glasgow. And then I went to the Scottish Cup final, and there was myself and a lad called Scott McGarvey. Now, some people might remember who Scott McGarvey was. He was the guy that allegedly set up Sam Allardyce for the fall with England. But it was Scott and I. And in front of, I think it was 70,000 people, I scored all the penalties again. This time against Scotland goalkeeper, right? No sniggering out there. There were some good Scotland goalkeepers, okay? But it was really strange. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't spooked. I wasn't an arrogant kid. I was really quite, not shy, but quite introspective and quiet. So I would be exactly the person you would think would crumble. I had absolutely no effect. He's like, yeah, I can do this.
So let's talk about growing up in Glasgow in Easterhouse. I've actually never been to Glasgow before. What was it like growing up in that time?
You know, when you're young, you have what you have. So you don't think about anything else. There was gang warfare. It was a very rundown. It was supposedly the worst housing district in Western Europe. there was all that sort of stuff going on. Alcohol was a huge thing in the area. Certainly the fighting and the gang warfare was big. There was one particular game that I remember very well. Not one. This happened often, but we'd play a game, maybe under 11s, under 12s. And a gang would chase another gang across the pitch with swords and knives and baseball bats and you name it, golf clubs. And we'd kind of stop and they'd run by and we'd try to stab each other. And then they'd go by and just carry on again. And like, you can imagine now people will go, what? News headlines. That was a gang that run across all those 12-year-olds. We went, move on. And it's a kind of the way it was there that you could get involved in that sort of life, or you just could decide not to. One of the helps with having a family and parents that would take care and did push you down different directions. And we were fortunate, my family, there were 6 of us, and my mum and dad as well, and they were very keen on our education. So although all that was going on around us, so I'll drop into the local dialect for a moment, right? Everyone's talking like that, and you don't know what I'm talking about, like so. But we didn't talk like that in my family. And I remember coming down to Chelsea and Colin Pates was chatting, and there was a couple of other Scots there. And he one day just said to me, yeah, but you're a posh jock, aren't you? And I went, I'm from Easterhouse, mate. What's that? Wherever you're from, that's worse. And he went, really? Because he thought I was posh.
You joined Chelsea during, let's say, a revolutionary period with the likes of Kerry Dixon and Nigel Spackman. You touched on it earlier, but what was it actually like joining that Chelsea team as a Scotsman as well?
It was an extraordinary time, and you never know extraordinary times until they're gone. And that's the strange thing about life and something special that happens. And I think it was a special time. Chelsea had a horrible few years. I'd turned down Chelsea for an entire year, because I wanted to finish my degree in Glasgow and also didn't want to be a footballer. So I eventually got talked into it and came down, and 5 of us signed within the same week. There was Kerry, as you mentioned, Eddie Nidsvik, myself, Joe McLaughlin, and Spackers. Now, if you buy 5 players, they don't all usually work, and we just ping straight in there. That's quite a big call, because we had a team there already. And he just stuffed. All 4 of them went in right away. I was a few weeks, because I went back up and done my finals. So it's weird. So, which I thought was important. Honestly, my mind was somewhere else. So we all came, and we were in the 2nd division at the time. We'd almost gone down to the 3rd division before Clive Walker saved the club with the goal that he scored. And we came, and we didn't think, we're going to take Chelsea back to the top. That wasn't a concern. Each of us individually thought, we'll try and do our best. And it was very, very quickly, it knitted together. It helped that the manager, John Neal, he kind of saw it the way we saw it. We were quite cavalier. We were very attack-minded. Kerry couldn't help scoring goals, and certainly the other players that we brought in, Spackman, incredible work rate. We added work rate that I don't think was quite there before.
Well, let's talk about John Neal, because you had a really good relationship with him. How important is that player-manager bond? And also, what do you think of Thomas Tuchel in today's Chelsea?
The manager bond was unbelievably important for me. I probably wouldn't have played for much longer had I come down to Chelsea and it had been the wrong manager. And he was a shouter and I didn't agree with him, because I'd have just walked away. I needed somebody who understood that you don't need to shout and ball, mate. I'll be my own worst critic. Don't worry about that. You won't need to ask me to work harder. In fact, both John Neal and indeed Johnny Hollands after him tried to stop me working. So I was doing too much post-match, during training, etc., after training. You have to get inside a player's head. I think mine's is a weird place to be. But he managed it, and I was impressed with him for that. There's been very few through the years that I've rated psychologically to be good. It was John Neal, very special, a guy called Colin Harvey at Everton, Jock Stein, Celtic, I worked with him for a while, and some guy called Alec Ferguson, don't know what.
I don't know him.
But I look at Thomas, And I've talked to Thomas a few times. Kind of got it. He's kind of got it. And it's that thing they all talk about, that kind of, there's no simple way of describing it. It's like something beautiful that you can't tell you why it's beautiful. Some art is fantastic, but you can't really explain why. Part of it is he's so personable with everyone. And he is. That you kind of want to be his mate. You know, you can, and he talked to me, and he's classically, he could have been a woman. There's a great line for you. He actually listens to you. Whereas blokes never do. And it's true, we don't. We're rubbish at it, generally. And Thomas is like that. He's intuitive. He's interested. He's phenomenally fair. Phenomenally fair. You know, Frank was a bit like that fairness as well, to be honest. Thomas's fairness is, I think the best moment was, you're waiting for Champions League final. No. The best moment was Callum Hudson-Odoi when he was substituted. And that happens to anyone else. And I listened to all the pundits saying, well, that's Callum Hudson-Odoi's career finished and he might as well leave, and that's embarrassing and that's a disgrace. And I'm thinking, you don't know Thomas. You really don't know Thomas. He's asked him to do something. He wasn't doing what he wanted him to do. Oh, I need to take you off and put someone else in who'll do that. You'll be fine as long as you come back and do it next time. You know, they wouldn't even need to say it. It's just, I'm not honest. There's nothing personal there about it. I'm not even furious with it. It's nothing like that. You don't know what's asked for you. I'll take you off and you can do it next time. And then he does.
Let's go back to your playing days at Chelsea. The moment that the fans fell in love with you, you speak about it in the book, and it was at the Newcastle game. You did a beautiful thing in that game. Can you explain what it was and the reaction you got?
It's funny because there's a number of things. We were 3-0 up at half time against a good team that had, you know, Kevin Keegan, Chrissy Waddle, a whole bunch of good players, and we murdered them at Stamford Bridge. We destroyed them. 3-0 at half time. I had an agreement with the manager, John Neal. If we went 3-0 up, I could have my playtime, i.e., I could do whatever I like and just beat people for the absolute fun of it. And I looked over it and went, when the third goal went, I went, can I? And he went, yeah, right. And I just basically had a laugh. There was also another thing happening at the time, that I always went in one daft mazy dribble, which was my dad's phrase, to say hello to my dad, because I could never see him again because he was always up in the stands. And had to go away and catch the train back to Glasgow before I could see him afterwards. So this one mazy dribble would, and Chelsea fans are going, oh, that's what you were doing then. All right. And I would just dribble as many as I could. And that was me saying, hi, Dad. And I did it in this game at that point, and took it in our 18-yard line and just kept on going and going and going and going, and then go back somebody and do it again. And eventually nearly made a goal. But it was quite early in my Chelsea career. And the Chelsea fans were, oh my God. And they got the fact that he's just doing that for a laugh. He's just doing that because he likes it.
Why not?
Exactly, because you love beating players. And it was a real moment. And maybe I didn't feel the moment because I was basically just saying, hi, Dad. But the Chelsea fans afterwards, it changed. It felt spine-tinglingly different. When I got the ball, the noise changed. The noise changed to something else. And I've always wanted to explain to Chelsea fans, you made me twice the player because of that.
Can we talk about you again at Chelsea being a character? Can we also talk about your feet as well? I'm going to incorporate the two. What made you decide to take the penalty in that way against Man City in the League Cup? I don't want you to have to delve into it too much. I'm sure you've spoken about it many times. I keep watching it and it's fascinating.
Well, what had happened is the day before, I'd taken 20 out of 20 and scored 20. But it wasn't muddy the day before. And of course, if you look at players now, how many players can you see going up, doing a Jorginho or an Eden, and they're walking up slowly to do something, they're waiting for the keeper to move? Some of us had to be trailblazers and see something different. I absolutely, and the thing is, I asked, it was me that got it put up on YouTube because I thought it was so funny. I've never been embarrassed. Like I've been nervous once, but I've never been embarrassed because I just find me ridiculous. So why would you be embarrassed by it? So I got somebody to put it up, my son, and also afterwards, the manager fined me £100 for laughing, for missing the penalty. And then missing the penalty is fine, but laughing while I missed it. We were 4-1 up. There was a minute to go. It was a cup game. It didn't matter unless you had £20 on a 5-1 Chelsea win, which was probably unlikely. So I found it absolutely hilarious. And the manager's going, "That's so unprofessional of you, Pat. You're never that unprofessional." And I went, "Yeah, but I like a laugh."
After Chelsea, PSG was actually on the cards, wasn't
Yeah.
it? But you ended up going somewhere a little bit different to Paris. Maybe just as romantic, I don't know. Everton, of course. They were obviously a big club as well. There is a very interesting story in your book about an encounter with an Everton fan involving Pavarotti, which is a fantastic story. Can you tell us what happened?
This character actually pops up in another book I've discovered. So in the players' bar after early games for Everton, maybe my first or second game, and this guy comes up and goes, "Oh, my name is," and he told me his name, Joe was his name, give that much away, and he said, do you like opera? And I went, yeah, and he goes, "Do you like Pavarotti?" And I went, "Obviously." And he went, "Well, I can get 2 tickets for you for his gig coming up, like gold dust." I went, "That'd be great." He goes, "I've spotted them and get them for you." Absolutely brilliant. I said, "Where did you see it?" I said, "Well, I do the houses up in the north of Scotland." And I said, "Oh, it's great. And you're painter and decorator or something?" He goes, No, I'm a robber. I'm a burglar. I do the houses. And I saw 2 on a mantelpiece and I can go back up and get them for you." I went, "Can't just met you." And this is Joe. Joe actually appears in Ricky Tomlinson's book.
Wow.
And similar sort of story.
Yeah.
And he was just a famous Evertonian, Joe. And he's got a number of tricks how he can evades the law. But it was just this openness about, it's like somebody saying, "Yeah, I'm a painter and decorator, I'm a car worker, and I'm a burglar." What? And his last words to us, he's walking out of the players' bar. He said, "Yeah, Pat, it's how's 23 Elizabeth Crescent?" I went, "How do you know I bought that place?" "Oh, no, I've just had a wee look. Terrible burglar alarm you've got there. But I've told the lads not to bother you."
Oh, how kind.
"Thank you. But I better keep on playing well, They changed their mind." I said, "You won't find much in there anyway."
Your life sounds like a movie, and there's one particular injury. Of course, you being a footballer, you come across injuries. When you were at Everton, you damaged your ACL. But there's one injury in particular, which you talk about in the book, which involves you running in the mountains in Scotland, as one does. And you did something to your ankle, but it's the bit afterwards that's just fascinating. What happened?
Well, it's a kind of weird thing because I did a pre-season every season. So pre-season was you work really, really hard. But I made sure that I come into pre-season in great nick. So I went mountain running and hill running. And I mean, serious stuff, like 2 hours, 3 hours. And so I come back like absolutely great nick. And I love my running anyway. And I went for a run up in the Scottish Hills. So it wasn't a mountain, it was a big hill, as in, it wasn't a Munro. But it was a long way. And
I thought I'd try and big you up a bit, Pat.
Well, we've got a thing about what's a mountain. You in England, you don't have any mountains. We have mountains. So it's just big hills you have down here mostly. So, it has to be over 3,000 feet. So anyway, I'd run a long way. It took me an hour and a half to get up there. And when I got up there, it's kind of getting a wee bit dark. It's in the gloaming, but it's still about half an hour's worth of light. And it's 10 o'clock at night because it stays light in the Scottish Highlands, or island as it was. So I thought, I better get back down. And so the first step I went back down, ankle, and utter agony. And the pain was just unbelievable. And I thought, oh God. So eventually it takes about 20 minutes for it to calm down. Then you think, I'm in trouble. I've not told anyone where I am. I'm the top of a big old hill-stroke mountain. I can't walk. It's now 10:30 at night. And it's the maddest thing. You just suddenly think, I'm stuffed here. I could be out all night. Because, there could have been anywhere on that island. The island was Arran. And it's not a giant island, but you're not going to find you right away. And I thought, God. So eventually, I had to go and find a stick to try, which is not easy in moorland, to try and help me get down. I froze my foot in the stream, which all water in Scotland is freezing. You probably know that, which is fortunate. I managed to tie up my ankle with a sock. I was running with football socks. I tied it up with both socks, made a stirrup, and then found my way down. And it took me until about 2 a.m. But there was parts where I thought, I'm not going to get down. I'm going to have to stay out. And there was not a cloud in the sky. And it goes well below freezing. I've only got a t-shirt on. And that's the shortened version, as you know. And it was an extraordinary thing to go through that I realised, never do this. I'm actually in mega trouble here. And eventually got back in, got down. I was driving an automatic, fortunately, because I couldn't have driven it. It was my left ankle. I couldn't have driven a car with gears. Got back to the house, which was 15 miles away. Got back to the house and my wife and father-in-law were in there. And I faced death. I walked in. I was waiting for all that. Oh, where have you been? I hadn't noticed I'd gone. I was like, thank you. Just like going through a trauma there, and gives a whiskey. I'm off to bed.
Okay, we are going to do some very quick fire questions, which require short answers, which you're very good at.
Short.
The first one just requires a yes or no. Will Chelsea win the Premier League this season?
Not sure. I can't be a yes or no. My money's on Man City, but I want Chelsea.
When you were playing for Everton, you played at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. You scored in the shed end. One word to describe that moment for you.
Hell.
I like that. So this one, in your book, you mention an incident that involves a Tottenham fan, a knife, and you impersonating a Cockney. Please, can we have a snippet of that accent now?
What's down, mate? What's that? I'm Chelsea. No, I'm Spurs and all.
Wow, that was brilliant. VAR, lover or hater?
Lover.
Oh, I want to ask more now, but okay. Funniest moment in your career?
Penalty with Man City, obviously.
Best gig you've ever been to?
Cocktail Twins, Yulu, 1983.
So this next one is for my own amusement. I don't know if you know this joke, but I'm going with it anyway. How can you tell the difference between Bing Crosby and Walt Disney?
Well, certainly Bing does something Walt Disney, but I don't know what Bing does.
Bing sings.
Ah, that's it.
Can we have the full thing now?
Bing sings Walt Disney. Of course, with a Glasgow accent, it's good.
I've been waiting my whole life for that. And lastly, can you sum up your football career in one sentence?
The most glorious, beautiful, enjoyable accident.
That was beautiful. Poetic, some might say. You should definitely go to write poems now.
Oh, no, I tried poetry. That's the hardest thing in the world.
Okay, Pat, also you said you wanted a surprise. Catch.
I will. Don't worry, I'll catch it.
Catch.
I'll catch it.
Okay, very quickly, for the fans, do something really impressive with this ball right now. Thank you, Pat Nevin. Lovely.
That was more impressive, actually. The right into the face of the camera there.